What if one lost wallet could change a life forever? Sit back, relax. This Christmas story will melt your heart in an unexpected way. Snow was falling softly over Seoul that night. The streets were quiet, and the air smelled like roasted chestnuts and winter. Maya hugged her red jacket close as she carried a big silver food bag through the snow. Her shoes were old, and her toes felt numb, but she smiled anyway. It was Christmas Eve, and she still had one more delivery to make before midnight. She worked for a fancy restaurant called La Vienne, the kind rich people ordered from. Maya didn't have much, but she was proud of her job. She liked to make people happy with good food, so she worked as a waitress and also a delivery girl. Her last order was going to the tallest hotel in the city, the Royal Seoul Tower Hotel. She had never been that high before. Just looking up at the building made her heart race. When she reached the gate, two men in black suits stopped her. They looked scary, tall, serious, and silent. One of them had something shiny under his coat. Maya guessed it was a gun. "Delivery for," she said softly. They looked at her, then checked a list. One of them nodded. "Go straight to the top," he said in a deep voice. The elevator doors closed and soft music played. She looked at her reflection in the silver walls, her brown skin glowing under the light. She didn't know that behind one of those security cameras, someone was watching her. Someone who would soon change her life forever. When Maya reached the top floor, she stepped into a long hallway covered with red carpets. The walls had golden lights, and the air smelled like rich perfume. She stopped at the door that said 2501 and pressed the bell. A tall man opened the door. He was dressed in black, a silk shirt slightly opened at the chest, tattoos running down his collarbone. His dark eyes looked sharp and calm, like he could see right through her. "Delivery," Maya said, holding out the box. He didn't speak for a few seconds, then he smiled, a slow, quiet smile. "Come in," he said. She hesitated. No customer had ever asked her in before, but she walked in carefully and placed the food box on the glass table. The room looked like a palace, big windows, white curtains, and a view of the entire city. "What's your name?" the man asked. "Maya," she said softly. He nodded. "Maya," he repeated. "You work on Christmas Eve?" "Yes, sir. People still get hungry on Christmas," she smiled shyly. He looked at her bare feet. "Where are your shoes?" "They got wet in the snow. I didn't want to dirty your floor." He raised a brow. "You refused a tip earlier today, didn't you?" She blinked. "How do you know that?" He didn't answer. He just smiled again, a strange, knowing smile. When Maya left, she felt like she had just walked out of a dream. She didn't know who that man was, but his eyes, they followed her even after she was gone. That night, back in her small apartment, Maya made a cup of hot chocolate. She was tired but happy to be done for the day. She took out the food box to clean it before returning it to the restaurant the next morning. But when she lifted the lid, her hands froze. Inside was a black leather wallet. It was thick, filled with cash, cards, and one golden coin with a strange symbol on it. Her heart began to race. "This isn't mine," she whispered. She opened the wallet. The name inside read Jin Tae-hyun. She didn't know who that was, but something about the name made her chest feel heavy. It sounded powerful, dangerous. She sat on her bed, thinking. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone would come back for it. But minutes passed, then hours. Immediately she remembered, maybe it belongs to the man at that hotel. But how did it get into my bag? Snow kept falling outside. The clock struck midnight, and in the dark streets of Seoul, black cars began moving. Jin Tae-hyun was not a man people disobeyed. He was the king of the Seoul underworld, feared, respected, and obeyed. People whispered his name like a curse, but that night he wasn't angry. He was He was curious. Earlier that day, he had seen the delivery girl outside the restaurant, through the snow, smiling when others complained. He had dropped his wallet into her box on purpose. He wanted to see what she would do. Would she keep it or return it? But his men didn't know that. When they realized the wallet was gone, they panicked. They searched the hotel, then the streets, then every delivery record in the city. By midnight, every guard was hunting for the girl with the wallet. Maya didn't know any of this. She only knew fear when she saw black cars outside her street that morning. Men with guns stepped out, talking into radios. Her hands shook. She grabbed the wallet tightly. Luckily for her, it wasn't snowing that morning. The city was quiet and cold. Maya ran fast, her breath turning into fog. She had only one thought: return the wallet before it's too late. When she reached the Royal Seoul Tower Hotel again, her legs were weak. The guards were still there. One of them saw her and shouted, "That's her!" Before she could speak, two men grabbed her arms. The wallet fell from her hands. "I didn't steal it! I came to return it!" she cried. They didn't listen. They dragged her inside. When the elevator doors opened again, she was standing in front of him, Jin Tae-hyun. He was sitting on the edge of the glass table, his black shirt unbuttoned, his eyes colder than winter. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the city below. "You found my wallet," he said slowly. His voice was calm, but dangerous. Maya swallowed. "Yes, sir. I didn't know it was yours." "You could have run away. You didn't." "Because it wasn't mine." For a long moment he said nothing. Then something strange happened. His eyes softened. "Leave us," he told his guards. When the door closed, he stood up and walked closer to her. His steps were slow, quiet. "You remind me of someone," he said. "Someone?" He nodded. "Someone who never lied to me." He turned, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small white envelope. "Take this," he said. Inside was a Christmas card, a check, and his phone number. "Next time," he said quietly, "don't walk barefoot in the snow. Call me." Maya's heart pounded. She didn't understand why, but in that moment, the coldest man in Seoul looked almost human. She took the envelope, bowed slightly, and left. The city lights shimmered like stars, and for the first time in her life, she felt like something strange, something big, had just begun. When she got home that day, she opened it. Inside was a small card that said, "Merry Christmas, Maya," and below that, Jin Tae-hyun. She touched the name with her fingers. It felt strange, beautiful, but strange. The check inside was for more money than she had ever seen before. It could pay her rent for a whole year, but she didn't want it. She folded the envelope back and hid it under her pillow. She didn't want people to think she had done something bad. She just wanted peace. At work that morning, the restaurant was busy. Everyone was smiling and laughing, exchanging gifts. Maya tried to smile too, but her mind kept drifting back to him, the man with the cold eyes and the quiet voice. Who was he? She whispered to herself. Something deep in her heart told her she hadn't seen the last of him. 2 days later, the bell above the restaurant door rang. Maya was wiping tables when she looked up and froze. There he was, Jin Tae-hyun. But this time, he wasn't dressed like a Mafia King. No black suit, no guards, just a gray coat and a calm look on his face. The air inside the restaurant seemed to stop moving. Everyone turned to stare at him. He walked up to the counter and said, "Table for one." Maya stood still, holding the cloth in her hands. Her heart beat fast. Her boss rushed over, bowing nervously. "Sir, please, this way." He didn't know who Jin really was, but the man's presence made everyone uneasy. He sat near the window, watching the snow outside. Maya tried to act normal. She brought him water, trying not to shake. He looked up at her. "You didn't call," he said softly. Maya blinked. "I didn't know I was supposed to." His lips curved slightly. "You're honest, still." She smiled nervously and hurried back to the kitchen, but even from there she could feel his gaze following her, calm, patient, curious. When Jin left, he placed an envelope on the table again. Maya didn't want to open it. She wanted him to stop doing that, but curiosity won. Inside was a small piece of paper with just one line: "Lunch tomorrow, don't say no." She sighed and shook her head. "What does this man want from me?" she whispered. Her friend Su Men, another waitress, peeked at the note and gasped. "You lucky girl. He's rich and handsome. Go!" Maya frowned.
"I don't even know him," Su Men laughed. "That's how stories begin." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about his eyes, how they looked empty but gentle when he spoke to her. Something inside her wanted to know more. The next day, she went. She wore her best dress, a simple white one with blue flowers. She didn't know why she was nervous. Maybe because she didn't belong in his world. Jin was already there when she arrived. A private corner, quiet music, warm lights. He stood up when she came in. "You came," he said. "I said I wouldn't say no," she replied softly. They sat down. The table was full of food she had never seen before. Steak, soup, and desserts that sparkled like gold. She didn't touch much. She just watched him. "You look scared," he said. "I'm not scared, just confused." He tilted his head. "Confused about what?" "Why me?" she whispered. He didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, "Because you remind me what honesty looks like. I don't see it often." Maya looked down at her hands. No one had ever said something like that to her. "Maybe you don't see the good in yourself, but I do." Her cheeks felt warm. She smiled shyly, and for the first time, he smiled too. Not his cold one, but a real, soft smile. After that day, things changed. Jin started visiting the restaurant often, sometimes just for coffee, sometimes for nothing at all. At first, everyone whispered. The boss told Maya to be careful. But slowly, Jin became part of her world. Quietly, gently. He would wait for her outside after work, walking her home under the snowy sky. They talked about small things, music, food, and life. Maya found out he loved cats and that he couldn't sleep without hearing rain sounds. She laughed. "You, the big, scary man who owns the night, can't sleep without rain?" He chuckled softly. "Even kings need something soft." The city began to whisper too, about the Mafia King who kept showing up in the poor part of Seoul. His men didn't understand. "Boss, this isn't safe," they told him. But he didn't care. For the first time, he felt alive. And Maya? She was smiling more than ever. Yet, deep down, both of them knew the world they came from could never mix easily. But love doesn't listen to rules. Days turned into weeks, and the snow melted slowly into spring. Maya's life began to feel different, like a movie she never asked to be in. Every evening, she would find Jin waiting outside the restaurant, leaning against his black car, watching her with that calm look that made her heart skip. He never talked much about himself, but sometimes she caught a shadow in his eyes, like he was hiding something heavy. Once she asked, "What do you really do?" He smiled faintly. "You don't want to know." "Maybe I do," she said. He looked at her quietly for a long time. Then he said, "Let's just say I'm a man people don't say no to." She laughed softly, thinking he was joking, but he wasn't. One night, after they had dinner together, Jin dropped her at her apartment. As soon as she stepped inside her house, two men stepped out from the corner of the street. They weren't his men. They were enemies from another mafia family. They had been watching him for days. One of them whispered, "That's the girl." The delivery girl, or should we say the waitress girl. The other nodded. Boss will be happy. He finally has something to use against Jin Tae-hyun. The next day, Maya felt something strange. A car followed her from home to work. She thought it was her imagination, but when she turned corners, it turned too. At night, when she walked home, she heard footsteps behind her. She told Jin about it the next day. He froze. His eyes turned cold. Describe the car. Black. No plate number. He stood up quickly, pulled out his phone and spoke in Korean so fast she couldn't catch the words. When he hung up, he said quietly, "You're not safe anymore." "Not safe?" Maya repeated, her voice shaking. He nodded slowly. "They found out about you." That night, Jin didn't go home. He stayed outside Maya's building in his car, watching. He didn't tell her, but he knew exactly who was behind it. Han Sek, an old enemy who had been trying to destroy his family for years. Han Sek had always failed, but now he had found Jin's weakness, Maya. By midnight, Jin's men reported that 2 suspicious people were seen near her street again. He went inside and knocked on her door. She opened it, surprised. "You're here?" He said. "I couldn't sleep," he said simply. He sat on her couch, looking around her apartment. "You live simply," he said softly. "I live happily," she replied. He smiled a little. "You really are different, Maya." She sat beside him. "Tell me what's going on. I can feel something's wrong." He looked down at his hands. "If I tell you, you'll be scared." "I'm already scared," she whispered. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then he said it, slowly, carefully. "I'm the leader of a group of people called the Seoul Black Syndicate. I'm not a good man, Maya. Not always." She stared at him. Her heart sank, but instead of running, she whispered, "Then why tell me?" "Because you deserve the truth. You always tell it. Maybe I should try too." The next few days were tense. Jin assigned 2 men to secretly watch over Maya. She didn't like it, but she understood. Everywhere she went, she could feel someone's eyes on her. One night, when she was locking up the restaurant, a man appeared out of nowhere. He smiled coldly. "You're Maya, right?" She froze. "Who are you?" He took a step closer. "You don't need to know. Just tell your boyfriend that Han Sek says hello." Before she could answer, he disappeared into the dark. The next morning, Jin's men found a note outside the restaurant door. It said, "The girl or the crown? Choose." When Jin read it, his hand clenched so hard that the paper tore. Maya saw his face, cold, pale, dangerous. "What does it mean?" she asked quietly. "It means," he said, his voice sharp, "they're trying to make me choose between you and my power." "And what will you choose?" she whispered. He looked at her, his jaw tight. "You already know the answer." But love is never easy when danger lives nearby. That night, Jin took Maya to a safe house outside the city, a quiet place by the mountains, hidden under pine trees. He didn't want her near the chaos. "This is for a few days," he told her, "until it's safe." She shook her head. "I don't want to hide. I don't want to live in fear because of you." He took her hands gently. "You're not hiding. You're surviving." She looked into his eyes. "And you?" He smiled faintly. "I stopped surviving the day I met you. Now I'm living." She leaned against his chest, feeling the warmth of his heartbeat. Outside, snow began to fall again, just like the first night they met. The days in the mountain house were quiet, too quiet. Maya would wake up early and watch the snow fall outside the window. The world felt peaceful there. She could hear birds, the wind, and sometimes Jin's voice talking on the phone in the next room. He never raised his voice, but his words carried weight, like every sentence could decide someone's fate. Yet, when he saw her, everything changed. His tone softened, his eyes warmed. One morning, she made breakfast for both of them. Eggs, rice, and tea. When he walked into the kitchen and saw the table, he paused. "You cooked?" She smiled. "Yes, you said I couldn't go out, so I had to do something." He chuckled quietly and sat down. "No one has cooked for me in years." She tilted her head. "Not even your family?" He looked away. "I lost them a long time ago." For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Maya said softly, "You don't talk about them much." He gave a small smile. "Some memories hurt too much to open." She nodded. "Then maybe it's time someone helped you heal them." He looked at her, his eyes softer than she had ever seen. "Maya, you don't know what kind of man I am." She smiled faintly. "Then show me." That night, they sat by the fire. The heater made a soft hum, and the only light came from the orange flames dancing between them. Jin stared into the fire. "When I was a boy, I wanted to be a painter. I loved colors. I used to draw birds on every wall." Maya laughed lightly. "You, the Mafia King, wanted to draw birds?" He smiled quietly. "I told you, not everything about me is dark." He picked up a stick and began drawing something in the ashes. 2 circles joined by a line. "What's that?" "2 lives, different paths, but they meet in the middle." She watched quietly, her heart feeling warm and sad at the same time.
For the first time, Jin looked human. Not powerful, not feared, just lonely. As days passed, the smell outside began to melt. The mountain air grew warmer, and Maya's laughter filled the house. Sometimes she danced while cooking, and sometimes she caught Jin watching her from the doorway, a quiet smile on his face. One evening, she turned to him and said, "Dance with me." He shook his head. "I don't dance." "You said you were a painter once. Painters have rhythm?" He sighed, stood up, and walked over. At first, his movements were stiff, awkward, but when she rested her head on his shoulder, he relaxed. The smell of her hair, the sound of her laughter, it melted something inside him he didn't know could melt. "I could get used to this," she whispered. He smiled. "I already am." A few days later, Jin got a call. Maya was washing dishes when she saw his face change. Sharp, focused, serious. After he ended the call, she asked, "Is it bad news?" He nodded. "There's a meeting I can't avoid. I have to go back to Seoul for a day." She frowned. "And leave me here alone?" "He left my men outside. You'll be safe." "Safe isn't the same as being with you," she said quietly. He looked at her for a long time before stepping closer. "I'll come back before sunset, I promise." She nodded slowly. "Okay, but hurry." Before leaving, he took off his silver bracelet and placed it on her wrist. "Keep this," he said. "It'll remind you I'm coming back." Maya smiled faintly. "You sound like you think I'll forget you." He brushed her cheek gently. No one forgets the person who brings them peace. When Jin left that morning, the house felt too empty. Maya cleaned, cooked, and tried to distract herself, but everything around her reminded him of him. His jacket on the chair, his book on the table, the sound of his deep voice echoing in her head. By afternoon, she stepped outside for a walk. The snow was thin now, revealing patches of brown earth and green grass underneath. She sat on a rock, looking down at the city far below. For the first time, she realized how much her life had changed, from a delivery girl in a small room to the secret heart of a man who ruled the city's shadows. And yet, she didn't want his money, his cars, or his power. She only wanted him. That evening, just as the sun dipped behind the hills, a black car stopped outside the house. Maya ran to the door, and there he was. Jin stepped out, tired but smiling. She ran into his arms. "You came back early." He laughed softly. "I told you, I always keep my promises." And that night, for the first time, Jin didn't sleep on the couch. He stayed beside her, holding her gently. Silent witnesses to a love that shouldn't exist, but did. Spring arrived in Seoul. The cold wind was gone, and cherry blossoms began to fill the streets. Jin and Maya had returned from the mountains. Life slowly felt normal again, though nothing about their love was normal. He still worked behind closed doors, giving orders, attending secret meetings, but every evening he showed up at the restaurant where she worked. Sometimes just to watch her smile. Sometimes just to sit quietly and listen to her talk about her day. One night after closing time, Jin waited outside with a soft smile. "Let's take a walk," he said. The city lights reflected in his eyes as they walked down the quiet streets. "Do you ever wish for more, Maya?" he asked suddenly. She looked up at him. "More what?" "More than working at someone else's restaurant. More than serving tables." She smiled gently. "Dreams don't pay rent." He stopped walking and looked straight into her eyes. "But what if someone believed in your dream?" She frowned. "You're serious?" He nodded slowly. "I've seen how you treat people. You make food feel like love. You should have your own place, a restaurant that carries your name." She laughed softly. "Me? I'm just a girl who serves and delivers food." He smiled. "Not anymore." The next week, Jin began his quiet plan. He didn't tell her much, only that he was working on something. He met with designers, architects, and chefs from across Seoul. They found a spot near the river, a peaceful area with a view of the city lights and water that sparkled at night. He wanted it to feel like her, simple, warm, and full of heart. He even told the builders, "Don't make it fancy, make it Maya." One afternoon, he took her for a drive. When the car stopped, she saw a building covered with white sheets. Workers were painting, carrying wood, and setting up lights. "What's this?" she asked, blinking in confusion. He held out his hand. "Come see." They walked closer. A golden sign was being lifted above the door. It said, "Maya's Table." Her mouth fell open. "Jin, no, you didn't." He smiled softly. "I did." Tears filled her eyes. "Why would you do this?" He looked at her and said quietly, "Because you gave me something no one else ever could. Peace. I want to give you something that lasts." Over the next few weeks, Maya's Table began to take shape. She chose the menu herself, dishes from Africa and Korea mixed together. Spicy jollof rice next to kimchi stew, fried plantain with Korean-style beef. People thought it was strange at first, but Jin only said, "Strange is what makes it special." He visited every day to watch her plan. Sometimes he sat in the corner, smiling while she argued with the chef or wiped tables that weren't even dirty. He loved seeing her like that, strong, happy, alive. One afternoon, Maya found him sitting alone in the empty dining room. "You don't talk about your work anymore," she said softly. He looked up. "Because for the first time, I want to leave it behind." Her heart skipped. "You mean quit?" He nodded slowly. "I'm tired of blood, Maya. I want to build something clean, something yours." She smiled through tears. "Then let's do it together." He kissed her softly. "Just us." The opening day came faster than they expected. The restaurant smelled like new wood and spices. Golden lights glowed softly over the tables. Maya wore a black dress with a white apron, her smile brighter than anything in the room. The restaurant was filled with people, curious about the mix of cultures, the story behind it. Jin stood quietly by the door, wearing a simple suit, looking proud but calm. When reporters asked, "Who owns this place?" Maya looked at him and said, "We built it together." That night, after the last guests left, she walked out to the river behind the restaurant. The water shimmered under the moonlight. Jin joined her, his coat draped over her shoulders. "You did this," she said softly. He shook his head. "No, you did. I just opened the door." She smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "You've changed, Jin." He looked down at her. "No, you changed me." Days turned into weeks. Maya's table became the talk of Seoul, not because of fame, but because of warmth. People said the food tasted like home, even if they were far from home. Maya's laughter filled the kitchen every morning, and every evening, Jin would close the restaurant with her, turning off the lights one by one. Sometimes he'd say, "When people come here, they don't see the Mafia King. They see a man who finally found his peace." And Maya would smile and reply, "That's because you left the darkness outside." One night after closing, she gave him a small golden key. He asked, "What is this?" "This is the master key to the restaurant, in case I'm not here." He smiled softly. "You trust me with your dream?" She nodded. "You trusted me with your heart first." The restaurant glowed every night, full of laughter and light. Maya's table was now a place people came from all over Seoul to see. But not everyone came for food. One evening, Jin noticed a man sitting in the corner, watching, not eating. He wore a black coat and sunglasses, even though it was dark. Jin's instincts stirred. The Mafia King in him, the one he thought was gone, awoke quietly. He didn't say a word to Maya, but that night, he followed the man out. When they reached the alley, Jin spoke softly. "Who sent you?" The man smirked. "Old friends. They don't like you play house." Jin's eyes darkened. "Tell them the king is gone." The man laughed. "You can leave the throne, Jin, but not the crown." The next morning, Jin doubled the security around the restaurant. Maya noticed. "Why are there guards?" he asked. "Just being careful." She frowned. "Careful of what?" He smiled faintly. "Of losing you." Maya felt something had changed. Jin smiled less. He watched the door too often. Sometimes caught him sitting by the window, staring out at the street like he was waiting for ghosts. "Jin," she whispered one night, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "You don't have to protect me from everything. I'm not afraid." He turned and held her close. "You should be," he said quietly. "Not of them, but of what I used to be." She shook her head. "I've seen who you are now. That's all that matters." He kissed her forehead gently. "Then I'll fight to keep that version of me alive." One night, Jin disappeared. No one knew where he went, not even Maya. For 2 days she waited, afraid but trusting. Then, on the third night, he came back a little tired. She ran to him. "Where were you?" He held her close. "I ended it." She stared at him. "What do you mean?" "They won't come again." Tears filled her eyes. "You could have died." He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but if I didn't, they'd have come for you." She touched his face, her voice trembling. "You promised to leave that life." He nodded. "And now I finally can. I gave up everything. The money, the power. I'm done." Maya's heart ached, but she smiled through her tears. "Then let's start again. Just us." He kissed her softly. "Just us." Months passed. Maya's table was rebuilt, brighter, stronger, filled with hope. A small framed photo hung by the entrance. Jin and Maya standing in front of the restaurant on opening day. People said they were the heart of the place, but those who looked closely noticed Jin always standing quietly in the background, smiling like a man who'd finally found his peace. Every morning before the first customer came, Maya would whisper, "This isn't just a restaurant. It's where pain became purpose." And every night, Jin would close the doors and hold her hand as they looked out at the city lights. He wasn't the Mafia King anymore. He was just Jin, the man who chose love over power, peace over pride, and her over everything else. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more amazing tales.